Tansei, I'm Creeson Agecoutay. Welcome to APTN National News. During question period on Tuesday, the NDP raised the name of late Catholic priest Johannes Rivoire. He was charged in 1998 with sexually abusing 4 children in Nunavut. But the case never went to trial. The children of one of his alleged victims wants the RCMP to release their father's records. NDP MP Lori Idlot asked when those records will be released.
Johannes Rivoire sexually abused Inuit children in Nunavut for years. Canada refused to charge him for 30 years and he died protected. Daughter of the late Marius Tungilik has asked the RCMP for his files, but they refuse to release it. This government must honor families, especially to those who suffered during residential schools. Will the Minister of Public Safety provide the documents, or will they help to keep the files hidden from this family?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question and raising these important issues with us in this place. Ensuring that justice is done for victims and their families is crucially important. It's something I know the minister takes incredibly seriously, and we will continue to work on this specific case with her. When it comes to dealing with systemic racism in policing, this is a crucial issue that we are focused on addressing. It is something we have made progress on, but by no means is it complete. There is much more work to do, and we are committed to doing it.
And we are now joined by Tanya Tungilik, who is asking the RCMP to release the file of her father, Marius Tungilik, who died in 2012. Marius was one of 5 victims to accuse Catholic priest Johannes Rivoire of sexually assaulting him as a youth. The RCMP say they cannot hand over the information due to the Privacy Act. Here's that interview. Thank you for joining us, Tanya. First off, could you tell us about your father, Marius Tungilik?
My father was born in Nauyat, Nunavut. Back then it was called Great Falls Bay NWT. And he went to residential school in Chesterfield Inlet from when he was about 5 until he was 12, and then when he was 13, he started working at the co-op store in Nauyat, where he worked with Johannes Rivoire, and in that store, that's where my dad was sexually abused by Johannes Rivoire. And ever since then, my dad has been trying to get answers, you know, from the RCMP. Like, he was trying to get his own statement from the RCMP he made in 1993, you know, until he died, and he never got his files. So I've been trying to do that for him.
Why is it important to have these files released for you and your family?
My family and I need to know what happened to my dad and what the RCMP did with the investigation, so we can have closure and heal. You know, truth must be known before reconciliation can happen. I need to know. It's been hard not knowing, and it'll just give me and my family closure, I think.
What is your reaction to the RCMP saying that they won't release these files due to privacy?
It's shameful. You know, are they hiding something? You know, now that my dad and Rivoire are both dead and the case is officially closed, there's no reason that the RCMP can't give me the documents. There's no reason.
How did it feel to see NDP MP Lori Idlot bring this up during question period in Ottawa? And do you feel that the government will do anything on this and address it?
I felt grateful to Lori Idlot for bringing that up during question period. I'm glad she asked for me and brought it to the public and to all the MPs there. And I'm not sure if they will give me the files now, but I hope they do now that we put pressure on them publicly.
If these files are released to you, what could this do for other families going through this?
It could also give them closure and healing for, the survivors of, Rivoire's abuse, and validate that, yes, it did happen, and that it wasn't just swept under the rug, although it has been for so long. We never got justice, and this will be something. It's not going to be actual justice for Rivoire, but I think it will be helpful to the families.
Really briefly and quickly, what is your last message to the RCMP? What do you want to say to them?
Please release those files to me and my family so we can heal and move on with our lives, and so that my dad can finally rest in peace, knowing that we now know what happened to him and can understand him fully.
We'll have to leave it there, Tanya. Thank you for talking to us today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you for calling me.
And to get the full story by our web reporter, Kathleen Martins, head to aptnnews.ca, where we continue to cover this story. A mother and daughter from the Sandy Bay First Nation in Manitoba fought for status all the way to the Ontario Superior Court and won. But sadly, both women died before the decision was made. APTN's Annette Francis met with the family members at their home in Windsor, Ontario.
See, my dad said to keep fighting.
The families of Bertha Isbister, who passed away 9 years ago, and Sharon Bikini share old stories and sort through old photos of days gone by.
Reserve there in Saskatchewan. They're in 1889, 1890, 1891, and 93. 4 kids died.
Yeah, 4, and then they started the family over again. And then
they're mourning the recent loss of their mother, grandmother, aunt, and wife, Sharon Bikini, who passed away this summer. She was diagnosed with terminal cancer and died while on a Zoom call for a court hearing regarding her right to Indian status.
And it was July 4th, and my mom passed away that day. The funeral home, they came in, and I said, yeah, you guys can come back in a half hour, an hour later. We're in court, and this was important to my mom.
The story of how Steve Bikini's mother and grandmother had to fight to regain status begins over 100 years ago. That's when Bertha Isbister's father, St. Pierre Cook, accepted Métis script. That immediately invalidated any treaty rights he may have had. But according to lawyer Lucas Lung, there is evidence he was underage at the time and could not legally accept script.
So when we got our hands on the receipt that was issued when the script certificate was redeemed for money, that receipt had William Sifton's signature at the bottom of it. So we had documentary evidence that the actual money was received by somebody who was known to have been a fraudster. So that was helpful in our case. But this was something that was significant in the Sandy Bay band. It was so significant, it was raised by, believe it or not, John A. Macdonald in Parliament.
3 weeks after Bikini's death, a decision in the case was made.
We won our case. And all my cousins and we're all happy, proud, being recognized for who we are.
Bikini's battle to regain her status started in 1998 when her son Steve applied for it for his grandmother Bertha and his mother Sharon. They were both turned down a number of times, but he kept appealing. Then in 2007, they both gained status as Treaty Indians from Sandy Bay First Nation in Manitoba.
And I was proud of that. So to help them. And then in 2009, INAC sent me another letter saying that they're appealing it and that they're removing them from the register.
According to Lung, the registrar ignored the applicable law.
So if you go back to the early 2000s when they initially said no, and this is the point that we made, like all that this family had to do was put the word protest at the top of their letters to say, hey, you got this wrong. And the decision that was made in 2007 would have been a final decision that the registrar wouldn't have had jurisdiction to revisit in 2009. So it's a very strange statutory scheme.
But the fight isn't over. The Attorney General of Canada appealed the decision, and now surviving family members vow to continue the fight. Alice Harrington says her mother would want that.
That was kind of like everything for her. That validated what she knew, and that she was going to get it, and that she knew that she was Native, and that they shouldn't have did that to her, and she was really happy.
APTN contacted Indigenous Services Canada for comment, but did not receive a response by airtime. Anna Francis, APTN National News, Windsor, Ontario.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. And you can watch this newscast anywhere, anytime on YouTube. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. It has been 25 years since the Marshall decision that affirmed First Nation fishing rights in this country. We'll bring you an update on that when we come back in about 3 minutes. Stick around. Welcome back. This September 17th marks an important anniversary. It has been 25 years since the Marshall decision affirmed First Nations fishing rights. Tensions between the Mi'kmaq and non-native fishers have flared more than a few times in maritime waters during the quarter century since then. As CTV's Ryan McDonald shows us, Donald Marshall Jr.'s family are proud of his legacy, but say more work needs to be done to uphold the rights he fought for.
25 years ago today, Donald Marshall Jr. won a landmark Supreme Court ruling that allowed First Nations people to fish for what the court called a moderate livelihood.
It's been a hard struggle for us, but you know, hard work pays off at the end.
And for him, it took such a toll for him to have to go through the court process to be in the public eye.
Colleen Dorsey is Donald Marshall Jr.'s widow. She and their son, Donald Marshall III, were in Saulnier-Ville, Nova Scotia 4 years ago during the so-called lobster wars between Mi'kmaq and non-native fishers.
What saddens me on his behalf and the behalf of the Mi'kmaq people is that it hasn't been implemented. The fishing rights haven't been implemented the way that they ought to be.
To us and to me, it's like the holy grail of evidence.
Until recently, Jeff Ward was manager of the Membertou Heritage Park, which still has Junior's old eel nets on display from his arrest on the waters in 1993.
They've changed lives, yet still today, they cannot define moderate livelihood. So the work is still not done.
I think at first a few people were maybe upset about it and that, but over the course of a few years, couple years and that, like everybody knew it was there, we had to get along with.
Herb Nash, a longtime fisherman's representative in Glace Bay, says the non-native fishers he knows have largely had no issue sharing the waters.
I don't have a problem with them being here. Like, they're not doing no more harm than their own. You know, we're all fishing for a living.
Today, the 25th anniversary of the Marshall decision is being commemorated with this photo exhibit in Sydney's Eldowik Arts Centre. One of the photos features Donald Marshall III, part of the next generation of Mi'kmaq fishers whose rights his father had fought for.
And they are implementing those rights. They are feeling that pride, and they are moving forward and advancing these causes. Is really heartwarming, and Junior would have really loved to have seen that.
Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Sydney.
The City of Prince Albert in Saskatchewan has partnered with 3 First Nations to build a new convention and cultural centre. The Montreal Lake Cree Nation, Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation, and Lac La Ronge Indian Band signed a Memorandum of Understanding approved by City Council this week. The memorandum passed with a 6-3 vote. The new centre is in the early stages of planning and development right now. When finished, it will host various cultural events, but hockey will be the main attraction. Besides tournaments, the Prince Albert Raiders of the Western Hockey League and the Northern Bears under-18 women's hockey team will call the facility home. The 3 First Nations will each own 15% of the facility. The city will own the remaining 55%. City Councillor Dennis Ogrodnek welcomes the collaboration on this project.
It's an understanding that the government of the Montreal Cree Nation, the government of the Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation, and the government of the Lac La Ronge Indian Band has confidence in working with the government of Prince Albert. We don't see that often.
The Batchewana First Nation near Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario is celebrating this week after it acquired full ownership of the Bow Lake Wind Farm. The 58.3 megawatt facility is on the eastern edge of Lake Superior, south of the Montreal River. The First Nation says they will continue earning revenue through the facility that will lead to their own self-sufficiency, while at the same time providing power to Ontario's energy grid. Previously, Batchewana owned 50% of the project, while Blue Earth Renewables owned the other half. Through this new agreement, Blue Earth will still oversee the facility, including maintenance and management. The Yukon government says people living in the territory can expect better telecommunication services in the coming months now that construction of 788 kilometers of new fiber line is finished. The Dempster fiber line runs along the Dempster Highway between Dawson, Yukon, and Inuvik, Northwest Territories. The line will connect the existing Mackenzie Valley fiber link in Inuvik to Northwestel's fiber network in Dawson. Once operational, the line will close Canada's North Fiber Loop. However, the loop will act as a backup, ensuring internet and cellular service remain operational in the event of a disruption. The territorial and federal governments and Northwestel contributed around $8 million in funding for the new line. It's expected to be operational by December.
Spanning 778 kilometers from Dawson to Inuvik, the fiber line represents years of hard work, innovation, and collaboration. It is a critical piece of infrastructure that will strengthen communication networks and support the long-term growth of the region.
We now want to tell you about this week's 3rd website poll question. On our website, we ask, have you ever tried to use services available under Jordan's principle? And if so, was it successful? Your 3 answers are, yes, it was successful, yes, but it was not successful, and no. Head over to www.aptnnews.ca to have your say. It has been 150 years since First Nations in the Treaty 4 territory signed treaty with the British Crown and the Canadian government. We'll take you to the celebrations near Fort Qu'Appelle, Saskatchewan when we return. Over on the East Coast, St. John's 19, Charlottetown 26. Cartwright 14, La Grande River 20. Val-d'Or 22, Gaspé 18. Toronto 22, Ottawa 24. Timmins 24, Sioux Lookout 21. Norway House 19, The Paw 15. Gimli 17, 16 in Dauphin. Regina 17, Yorkton 16. Meadow Lake 14 in Rain, La Ronge 16. Sunny and 21 in Fort McMurray, High Level 19. Medicine Hat 17, Calgary 20. Tofino 16, Kamloops 24. Sandspit 17, Smithers 17 as well. Whitehorse 9, Rock River 8. Yellowknife 14, Wrigley 10. Colville Lake 13, Inuvik 11. Chesterfield 10, Baker Lake 12. And Clyde River 3, Aglulik 2. Last Sunday officially marked the 150th anniversary of the signing of Treaty 4. Hundreds of people gathered in the Qu'Appelle Valley in Saskatchewan near Fort Qu'Appelle for the commemorative event. CTV's Angela Stewart was there and has more on the day's events.
It was a day to reflect and to commemorate. Sunday marked the official signing of Treaty 4 150 years ago.
It's a time to, I think, renew our strength towards seeing the promise of treaty fulfilled through treaty implementation and the honoring of the spirit and intent of treaty.
Special dignitaries, elders, and those from all over Treaty 4 gathered in the Qu'Appelle Valley for the special event.
I can just feel the spirit of our negotiators that were talking good talk about the treaties and how it was affecting us in that day.
The treaty was first signed in the Qu'Appelle Valley on September 15, 1874. It was established between the Cree and Saulteaux peoples, covering almost 200,000 square kilometers, running between Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta.
This is where Treaty 4 was negotiated. Treaty Commissioner Alexander Morris and David Laird, the Treaty Commissioners for the Crown, attempted to go to the HBC fort to negotiate the treaty, but the chiefs would not agree to that.
For the next 150 years, officials hope all those in Treaty 4 will continue to reflect and celebrate what the historic signing meant to the land and its people and what it continues to be today.
We have an obligation to create good partnerships, to take care of the land together, to build a future for our children together. And so going forward, that's what we celebrate.
Angela Stewart, CTV News, near Fort Qu'Appelle.
The Nokowa Family and Youth Center in Fort Macleod, Alberta received a large donation from the Toronto Dominion Bank on Monday. Since 2020, the center has housed Indigenous young people who previously lived in group homes or non-Indigenous foster homes. Nokowa is a non-profit facility. They offer family reunification, cultural supports, and independent living programs. TD donated $150,000 over 2 years to help support the center. The money will be used to increase their programming and ensure financial stability, says their CEO.
With this funding, it helps us to enhance our land-based programming. It also helps us to enhance our cultural programming. It also helps us to increase training for us to achieve accreditation standards. So this funding is extra that helps to build our capacity so that we can be more sustainable.
And that's your midday newscast for this Wednesday, September 18th. We'll be back in a few hours for your evening newscast. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News, Masicho Miigwech, hi hi. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.